Good morning, Dan and Amy. These are interviews that are difficult to do, but when parents speak out, we feel obligated to amplify their message. 10 days ago, we spoke with Chris Buckner, the father of Dylan Buckner from Glenbrook North, who committed suicide during these lockdown policies, and Mr. Buckner and his wife speaking out on behalf of restarting sports again because sports were so important to Dylan and are so important to so many other kids as a school generally.
Yeah,
Well,
sports and theater and dance and all of that, and
and
clubs.
so the situation is with Lisa Moore, who we talked about a bit last week after she appeared on Harris Faulkner's show on Fox News to discuss the death of her son, Trevor. And we're pleased to be joined now by Lisa Moore. Lisa, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. So just tell us about your 18-year-old son, Trevor.
Boy, how long do you have?
Yeah, I know. I know.
My son, Trevor, was awesome. He was a total extrovert, not happy unless he was performing of some sort. At Seneca, he was a freshman at University of Illinois when he took his own life in the dorm. At Seneca High School last year as a senior, he was the president of his class. He was president of National Honor Society. He was the captain of cross, the captain of the speech team. He was the drum major. He played the trombone. He was in choir. He had an awesome voice. He was the lead in the spring musical, which thank goodness was able to he was able to perform. It was the weekend before they closed the schools for COVID. Numerous clubs. I mean, the list is endless. He, as a sophomore year high school, he was a representative at the Hobie, which is an honor government camp. His junior summer, he went to Boys State, which is also an honor. So he met kids from all over the state of Illinois. He was awarded the Daughters of American Revolution Award. He was the only boy in
Really?
LaSalle County. Yes, it was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, Lisa,
He just wasn't.
you and I spoke at length this weekend, and by all accounts, he was just an amazing student, and the teachers still miss him, and everybody in your community misses him. But tell us how, when the lockdown first started, what changed in him?
I just saw like the light kind of go out in his eyes. Trevor was at school most days from 7 a.m. till, if he had musical practice, till 9 p.m. You know, it was his world. It was his everything. He had such a great rapport with his teachers. He, besides being educators, they were, his friends also. He would tell me the Zoom stuff is it's horrible. It's not the same, and there's no extra help, no extra classes that you can go to, because so many of the educators at Seneca High School host on their own time study groups and study periods for, some of the upper level, like AP Calc class per se. And none of that could go on. I mean, he just, he went from just being just a light and a singing, dancing machine to he just was sad. He was very sad.
It's interesting because this sounds very much like our conversation with Chris Buckner about Dylan. Dylan was a standout athlete, also a standout student. Your son, a standout student, but standout in theater and the arts, and he's involved in all these activities. And it's the same dynamic. It's that they were making those interpersonal connections that mean so much in life, particularly for young people finding their way. And for all that to be taken away so quickly, it's not, people shouldn't be surprised that some of these kids, no matter how well they're doing in so many fronts, are lost when that happens.
Exactly. And Trevor also was an athlete. He was, like I said, he was on the cross country team that made it to state many times.
Right.
He also was looking forward to his senior year his track season. He was a pole vaulter. He made it to state his sophomore year, which he PR'd at state, which is rare. He did not make it his junior year. He missed by 3 inches. That was just devastating to him. So, boy, he was so gung-ho for his senior year. He could not wait to get back jumping again and make it down to state and just, do his best and all that. So when that was cut, it was hard. It was very hard for him.
So what was the situation when he moved on from Seneca High School to U of I?
Trevor wanted to go to a bigger school. He really did. He was very hopeful to be in the marching band. He was planning on being in the marching band at U of I until he found out that it was just Zoom, Zoom practicing. And he's like, Mom, I don't want to stand and practice my trombone to a computer. He wanted to do it for the camaraderie of the band and just the excitement and just all of those things. So he did not do that. He moved into his dorm. He was positive. He was going to give it a try. He wanted to do it, and everything, but he didn't have a roommate, which we found out after a few days because his roommate was coming from India, and obviously he couldn't come because of COVID. Mm-hmm. That was hard, so he was starting to, when you are a freshman in college, sometimes your roommate ends up being your best bud or at least someone to hang around with all the time. Well, he didn't have that. Everyone had to wear masks.
He was essentially locked in his room, right? I mean, because they had no in-person classes.
Well, he had 2 in-person classes. The rest were online. But the 2 classes he did have in person, he was fortunate. I mean, they were upper-level history classes, so everybody that was in it knew each other pretty much, except, he was a freshman, plus wearing a mask, plus sitting 6 feet apart. You don't forge relationships like that. It was very difficult for him. You had to sit 6 feet apart at tables to eat, with your mask on, just off to eat. And they sat outside. The tables were outside until it got too chilly in the morning for them to eat breakfast outside, and then they brought him in. There was, no clubs, no activities in person. Everything was via Zoom, so that's another thing, hard to forge new relationships when you're just meeting someone over the computer, and it was all very impersonal. However, they COVID tested them 3 times a week. They all had to be COVID tested. So they knew if anyone had the virus or not, but they did not loosen the chains on anything. It's just, it was hard. It was hard. He was trying his best. We talked to him all the time, myself, his dad and siblings, and he kept trying. And, he would try to meet people and try to get out there, but it was very hard. And when you're alone all the time and then alone in his room, and there was only 3 floor meetings since he was there. So in 8 weeks, 3 floor meetings, and they were via Zoom too. So
I think this is what people don't know, that, we're sending our kids to college, but even at U of A, I've heard this, at Iowa, you're locked in your room. If you have a roommate, fine, but you have to do your whole classes online, and there's no social interaction. And yet you're paying these exorbitant fees. And I know at a lot of Big Ten schools, they took the second semester fees, and then they told them that it's going to be all remote learning.
Wow. I honestly think if they weren't prepared for this, I don't think that they had, and I'm not blaming the RAs, but they didn't have enough education for this whole COVID isolation, this whole changes in people's moods, and just they were not prepared. I don't think U of I should have opened. I think Trevor should have just had to stay at home.
So this wrongful death suit that you filed against Governor Pritzker, what's the message you're sending the governor?
Well, I don't think it's actually a wrongful death suit. It's been those words per se. I just would like to know why he just made the decisions he made so quickly without any evidence-based, theory behind it. Why he just closed everything, boom, the schools, and negated just the kids' feelings, and didn't see forward how all this was going to happen with this COVID isolation, with the kids being depressed, and the mental changes. And I don't think we've seen the worst of it. I think the PTSD from all of this with all these kids, it's going to be horrific. Kids are finding other things to do when they're not involved in their normal activities, and they're not always making the best decisions. I've heard stories of drinking and just different things that are going on that wouldn't probably be had the kids been busy doing what they're supposed to be doing in school.
Your conversations with other parents and families at Seneca High School about what's happening there, just within your universe of Trevor's friends and those moms and dads that you speak with.
Uh, what was the question?
What has been the interaction with Trevor's friends and families that you were friendly with, the other parents of Seneca High School, where you live, and their reaction, what other families have been dealing with in your community during these lockdowns?
Oh, well, regarding Trevor and what happened with him, everyone was devastated, shocked, very surprised. I mean, and then the realization hit, if this could happen to Trevor, it could happen to any kid because of who Trevor was and the impact and just everything he left with anybody. Anyone that met him once remembered him. At his services, I think I counted 12 high schools that had attended, different high schools. And some of these kids had only met Trevor once, maybe at a cross meet or at a speech meet. But his impact on their lives was enough that they wanted to come show their respects. Parents are worried. Parents are very worried about their kids. And this is helping them be more alert, being more attuned to their children's, behaviors and just any differences they're seeing in their kids. I tell every parent to helicopter the heck out of your kids now. Just watch for anything, be aware. Trevor and I were very close. We talked about everything. And, when I asked questions, it's not like I didn't. I asked questions. He just did not share the very end how sad he was.
And then, Lisa, you had a fight with the University of Illinois to get the tuition back?
Yes, I did. They did send me in the beginning. They sent oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. Part of it they gave me back. I can't think of the word. I apologize.
That's all right.
But I did have to get downright ugly in an email asking them if they could sleep at night because I sure couldn't, because the images of my son had sat in his dorm room didn't allow me to sleep very well. And then they finally did issue me a check for the rest of the money that we had spent for his first semester.
Well,
I think.
Yeah, no, I understood. Well, one thing is what you were describing in terms of all those kids and families represented at his funeral service. That's a great testament to your son. So that's it's a great indication of the legacy that he leaves behind. And I hope parents are listening to you and unfortunately what you have to share. And we certainly appreciate your time in sharing that as well. And good luck with your effort to get some accountability from the governor. Nobody else has been able to do so, so maybe you can.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate you speaking with me. And yes, I just plead to the parents to watch your children because I don't want any other family to go through this. This is horrific. This is the rest of my life. I wake up every morning and it's just a realization that that boy is not going to come walking back into my room singing, dancing, being his silly Trevor. And I know he's reaching out through me. He's telling me, Mom, there's kids that are still sad in their dorm rooms. They don't know what to do. There's kids sad at home. They're missing their friends. They're missing their sports. Please, Mom, help them all. And I am. I'm Trevor Strong.
Yep. And Lisa, I'm telling you, well, our thoughts and prayers are with you, but I truly believe in my heart that lawsuit that you filed with the other parents against Pritzker and the IHSA helped a return to sports because there were games played this weekend south of I-80, football games that, regions that were in phase 4. And I thank you for that from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, I sure hope it helped. And I sure hope it's going to help get everything out there. I sure would like to see some plays and musicals go back on because the sports are all important. I agree, but there's other kids that might just be looking forward to that musical or to that play or to drama club, just anything extracurricular. And it all needs to open back up for these kids.
Absolutely.